Well, it's a theological question, though. Okay, I too believe that Allah is the creator, and by creator, it means that the creator has to reside outside the creation. For example, if you've heard about the contingency argument, that's a that's like that's the most solid argument I have ever come across for the existence of God. And there are multiple YouTube videos out there that could explain, yeah, that could explain the phenomena, right? So the position I hold on this, okay, the position I hold on this is the same. I believe that the creator, right, the law of causality tells us that the effect, the cause resides outside the effect, yeah. And if we believe that God is the cause of the universe, then by definition it has to reside outside the effect. Now, how that does work, nobody knows that. Nobody, I've heard, I've read multiple scholars, who have written corpuses on it, but none till today have been able to exactly tell us that how that works, right? There are multiple opinions on this, right? So what I hold is like, the question was like the definition of eternal. Eternal is something which doesn't which doesn't um, which doesn't end, which does not have the end point, right? So that's what I believe in eternality. So yeah, if you have a timeless being, right, to whom time, the past, present, and the future is the one thing, right, in the totality, then that time wouldn't affect him because he lives outside the effect, right, which is time itself. So there is no serial time when we talk about God's being. So I hope you understand, because it's very complicated, yeah. There is no serial time, like for example the moment after the other, right? So like we experience, like the way human beings perceive the reality, the temporal realities, that we have the past and then the present and then the future, right? That's how the serial time works. But God, in my opinion, lives in pure time, where there is duration but not the serial time, yeah, where there is pure duration. So I believe that the cause must reside outside the effect. For example, let me give you an example of contingency argument. It's a very big argument. I mean, I'll try to make it brief and explainable, right? So the contingency argument works like, you have something physical, something finite, dependent upon something other than itself. Like, for example, phone. If the phone exists, and it has finite physical qualities and has the possibility of its non-existence. So its existence can only be defined by something which is outside of itself. For example, the manufacturer made the phone wouldn't exist, right? So the manufacturer imposed the finitude of the phone, the limitations, like it has certain screen, right? It has certain shape, certain dimensions, right? So the cause, the cause resides outside the effect, right? And makes the thing dependent upon itself. Since we go the universe, which is finite, whether you take it from a scientific view, like cosmological view, Big Bang, I'm not, I'm not lean towards any scientific hypothesis or a theory. So I take it from an actual infinite, right? Since the actual infinites do not have the real existence, therefore the universe cannot be infinite. And if it is not infinite, then it has to be finite. And if it is finite, then it has to have a beginning. And if it has a beginning, then it has to have a cause, right? So the beingness of the universe, right, which has the possibility of its non-being and has finite, limited physical qualities, makes us deduce that. So what sort of a thing would it be dependent upon? It has to be dependent upon something which is external to itself. That's what the contingency argument implies, that if a thing has a finite, limited physical qualities, then it has to be dependent upon something which is outside of itself. Like in the case of phone, I told you that the phone exists because it was manufacturer who made it, right? So the phone was outright dependent upon the manufacturer. In the same way, if the universe is finite and has limited physical qualities, then the universe must be dependent upon something which is outside of its existence, yeah? And if it's outside of its existence, then it has to be um uh, non-temporal, right? Because the time exists in the universe, and the universe is something which dependent upon something which is outside the universe, so that temporal reality wouldn't imply there. So one may say that, okay, fine, then that thing on which the universe is dependent upon may be dependent upon something, other than itself, maybe something else, that would be dependent on something else, and that would be dependent on something else. And you must be aware that's what it implies, that you might be aware of the infinite regress fallacy, though that's logical impossibility. So something has to exist of its own in order to make everything else dependent upon itself. Yeah. So it was short, right? It's a big argument, yeah, and it gets very tricky and complicated even on times, yeah. But that's the crux of the matter. Thanks, bro. You were asking about atheists to approach you. You'll find only, yeah, that's this is an atheistic group, yeah, and you got more than 100,000